Iga Swiatek, one of women's tennis's brightest stars, is already looking ahead after an unexpected early exit at the 2025 US Open. The defeat in the quarterfinals to Amanda Anisimova came as a shock to many who had hoped for yet another deep run from the Polish champion. But rather than dwell on the loss, Swiatek is using this moment as a pivot point, providing fresh insight into how she plans to rebuild, refresh, and refocus for the rest of the season. The US Open breakdown. At the US Open, Swiatek entered as one of the favorites. Her form in the lead-up tournaments had been solid. She had won the Wimbledon title with an emphatic 6-0 victory in the final, a double bagel that made headlines. She also claimed the Cincinnati Open and had accumulated momentum. Her confidence seemed high, and observers expected her experience and power to carry her deep into the US Open draw. The loss to Anisimova in straight sets, 6-4, 6-3, exposed some cracks. In her post-match comments, Swiatek acknowledged that her serve wasn't at her best and noted how well Anisimova was returning. She admitted that some of the difference in the match could be attributed to her opponent's strong returning game. She was also confronted with questions about fatigue and whether the long hard-court season had taken a mental and physical toll. Some of the media exchanges were tense. When asked about how tired she was, Swiatek pushed back against the suggestion. At one point she asked, "Why would you say that?" and pushed the idea back on the interviewers, saying perhaps they needed a mental break. Her tone made it clear that she found fatigue to be a convenient explanation, but one she wasn't entirely willing to accept. What Swiatek is saying now. In interviews and press conferences after the US Open, Swiatek has made clear that she sees this setback not as a crisis, but as a learning moment. She says she's been taking stock of several components of her game and schedule. Serve and return. She pointed to her own serving as an area that was subpar during the tournament. She conceded that she didn't practice her serve as much between matches as she would have liked, and that Anisimova's returns exposed that lack of sharpness. Mental refresh. Although she rejects the simple label of fatigue, she has indicated that there is value in mental rest and resetting expectations. The cumulative effect of big tournaments, high stakes, intense media attention, and the burden of expectation are real, she says, and she will work to guard against burnout and preserve her well-being. Scheduling choices. Swiatek is evaluating her schedule, planning how to balance rest with maintaining enough match play to remain sharp. She's considering how to enter the Asian swing, upcoming tournaments in Asia later this year, with enough energy and physical readiness. Not losing momentum. One thing she's clear on, she does not intend to let a single disappointing tournament define her season. She has goals ahead: ranking, Grand Slams, the WTA Finals, and views the remainder of the year as an opportunity to build back up. What has Swiatek already done / is doing? It's not just talk. Swiatek has already taken steps aimed at ensuring the next phase goes more smoothly. 1. Rest and recovery. In the period immediately after the US Open, she is allowing for some recovery time, both physically and mentally. That means lighter training, careful physical treatment, and attention to recovery protocols. 2. Refined practice. Going back over match tapes, analyzing patterns, particularly her serve and situations where her return allowed her opponent to gain the upper hand. It seems she will work on tightening some technical aspects rather than wholesale changes. 3. Mental conditioning. Reinforced by her team, that includes her sports psychologist, Swiatek is giving importance to psychological resilience, learning from mistakes, letting go of frustrations quickly, reducing pressure by focusing on process rather than outcome. 4. Tournament selection and planning. While the Asian swing remains on the calendar, Swiatek is being more nuanced in her planning, choosing tournaments with rest built in, considering travel fatigue, possibly skipping or reducing practice loads in off days to preserve energy. Why this matters? For Swiatek, who has already won multiple Grand Slams and has established herself among the all-time players of her generation, maintaining consistency is the key. Losses will come. What sets apart champions is how they respond. Ranking implications. Although she expected to challenge for the #1 spot again, the US Open loss delays that, but there is still time to make up ground. How she performs in the fall, Asia Swing plus possibly other WTA tournaments, will influence whether she can reclaim or at least contest for top ranking by year's end. Grand Slam momentum, Wimbledon, where she delivered one of her most dominant performances ever, gives Swiatek enormous confidence. But she knows that success on grass or clay doesn't always translate immediately to hard courts or long stretches of the tour. Managing her form across surfaces is a constant balancing act. Physical and mental longevity. The tennis calendar is grueling. For players at the top, physical wear and tear and mental pressure are persistent challenges. Choosing when to push and when to back off is as strategic as any match play. Expectations versus performance. Tennis fans and media often expect top players to win or reach the final rounds consistently. Every early exit weighs heavily in media narratives. For Swiatek, controlling the narrative by being open, honest about what needs work, and showing steady improvement can help reduce external pressure. Challenges ahead. Even with a plan in place, Swiatek faces several obstacles. Opponents improving, players like Anisimova, Sabalenka, and others are not standing still. Anisimova's recent performances, including the win over Swiatek at the US Open, show that rising stars can exact revenge and upset big names. Swiatek will have to match that in intensity and preparedness. Hard court swing adjustments. The transition between surfaces, grass hard court sometimes indoor, is not trivial. Hard courts generally require different footwork, shot selection, and stamina. Losing hard court matches early can damage confidence. Travel and fatigue. Asia Swing implies long flights, acclimatization, changes in time zones, climate differences. If not managed carefully, these can sap energy. Handling criticism and media questions. As seen at the US Open, questions about fatigue, pressure, and performance can be sensitive. How Swiatek handles media scrutiny may affect her mental state. Avoiding injury, pushing too hard in training to compensate for perceived weaknesses can lead to overuse injuries. Recovery must be balanced with improvement. What we might expect next. Given what Swiatek has said and done, several scenarios are plausible for what could happen in her comeback path. Strong performances in Asia. If she enters tournaments in Asia with proper rest, she may put together some deep runs. These will be crucial to rebuilding confidence, ranking points, and match sharpness. Incremental improvements, not overnight turnarounds. It's unlikely she reinvents anything immediately. More probable is gradual improvement in her serve consistency, return effectiveness, mental composure under pressure, and ability to close out tight matches.